Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Gina, and in today's video we're going to be continuing on with the Apothecary build. This is part 2 of a two-part video, so if you haven't watched the first one, please stop now and go and watch that. I'll put the link in the description below. So in this video we're going to be building out more of the detail into the Apothecary drawers, the counter, as well as adding in a project that I actually started in a miniature club, which was meant to be a hutch dresser, but literally by the time I'd left the club and got home, I realized that it would fit really well into this project. So I've actually split it in half, and I can show you how that looks in the project because I've decorated it up, which actually includes some of that wooden fan details that I'm actually bringing through from the library as well and already seen in the balustrade. So hopefully you enjoy this video. You know the drill, let's get started. So first of all, we're going to build out the back cabinet, which is sort of a combination of a bookshelf and as well as the apothecary drawers. So I've just created this small piece across the front because the drawers themselves are just going to be faux drawers. I'm going to have a couple that are actually already open, but they don't slide in and out. So what I'm doing here is just marking out roughly the size that I want the drawers to be. Actually, in hindsight, they're probably just a little bit too small, especially for the scale of the project. But they work. They still look the part, and I'm pretty stoked with how they've turned out. So once I've got them all drawn out, I can actually move on to creating some more of the details. So this is the side pieces that I've actually used some mat board, just cut the top layer of a couple of strips down the lengthways, and then I'm just going to peel off that top layer of paper, and this just adds a nice little detail without getting too much into it. Most of this will be hidden by the front counter anyway, so I'm not going to go too much into too many details, but that was just a nice little easy little detail that I thought would be quite good to create. And to create the drawer fronts, I'm just going to cut some strips of mat board that are slightly smaller to what I've already drawn out onto the piece of mat board that I've already drawn the squares onto, and then I'm going to stack them all up together. But as I can see here, even though I've kind of tried to line them up, they're moving around, which is really frustrating. So I'm just going to tape it all like almost like a jig, but just out of mat board, to my craft mat. And then what I can do, then that way they won't move, and then I can draw out where they need to be cut, and then I can cut them all down to size. And this just is a lot easier to do than trying to hold it all together, especially when they want to move around. So now that I've got all these individual pieces cut out, and I've actually got more than I need, I'm actually going to have a look to see which drawers that I want to open, and I'm just going to cut out some spaces for those. I'm just going to mainly use the top of the set of drawers because the bottom part will definitely be hidden by the front counter. So I only need to cut out, I think I cut out about 7 of them. And then I'll just create some little drawers that will fit into here, and they will just be permanently sort of ajar or just slightly open. So now I can go through and just start gluing all of these small pieces into place, which just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of patience, but we get there in the end. Okay, so now that's all done, we can start to move on to building out the back part of the cabinet, which is going to create sort of like a little bit of a bookshelf type of display area where I can put some of the little display bottles of all sorts in the back there. So just starting with a basic frame. So just I've already glued the side pieces into place, and this is just to glue the top, and then I'll continue on with the bottom pieces as well. So in order to have something for the drawers to glue to, I'm just putting in these little supports. I'm just using a bit of leftover foam board, and they're just going to be, I'm just placing them at the bottom of each of the drawers, or the holes for each of the drawers, and they'll actually also create some supports as well for the actual front when I actually glue it into place. So this is basically the top of the set of drawers. And then this is how the two pieces come together. So it is actually all going to be just the one piece, just all glued together. So that's why the drawers are just faux drawers at this stage. To create the bench top, or the top of the unit, I'm actually just using some balsa wood and just cutting that down to size. I just want it to overhang a little bit at the front and then a little bit at the side as well. So I'm just creating that shape to allow it to sort of wrap around the very front of the cabinet, just to kind of give it a little bit more detail and a little bit more depth into the unit as well. For the very top cabinets, I'm wanting to pull through some of that paneling detail, and I'm just creating some of those same shapes into some surrounds that I'm going to create just on the left hand side as well as the right hand side as well. And then once this is painted up, I'm just going to add in some of that same gold paneling details as well. So here you can see how it's all going to sort of fit together. So that piece there is just going to go over on the left hand side, and then equally the same will be on the right hand side, and then I can add some shelves in between and then one shelf in between the two. So now we're just going to paint it all up in the same green as the walls, and then we can start adding in a few more details. For the drawer fronts, I just wanted to paint them into more of a wood look, so I've just gone in here and put a coat of brown paint, and then I'm just mixing up a slightly darker wash to go over the top to try and get in between each one of those drawer fronts, just to add a little bit more detail into the project. So I've got my Cricut machine out again, and these are basically the little label holders that I've created, and they're super tiny. And what I've done is, instead of trying to create paper, I've just gone ahead and put some white paint, just splodged it on. Probably could have done that a little bit neater, but anyway, onto the drawer fronts, and then I'm just going to take the actual little gold label and just basically glue that over the top of the white, so that I can get the details that I'm looking for. So there we can kind of see what it's going to come out like, and once it's all across all of the drawer fronts, it should look pretty good. And there we go, that's what it looks like with them all put into place. So they are a little bit small, but I think it's come out pretty well. Let's move on to creating the cabinet at the front. So this has got a specific shape that I'm looking for, and so what I've done is I've just cut out all of the shapes that I need and all of the sizes, and now I'm just going to glue it all together. So once I got the basic shape into place, I actually added in another piece of mat board along the back, and then created a couple of shelves as well as a bit of a toe kick at the bottom just so that, not that you'll be able to see this part because it will be hidden, and I'm not intending to really put anything in it, but it actually helps with the structure of the piece. So it just adds a little bit more strength and a little bit more stability to the whole thing, which is exactly what I need for this project. So I've just used balsa wood for the countertop and is using the same wash that I used for the flooring to paint it up. So I'm wanting to create a bit of a wood stain, but instead of using actual stain, I'm actually using acrylic paint or watered down acrylic paint. And then I'm just using a slightly darker wash as well, just into the corners, as if there had been sort of a bit of aging to it. So I'm actually going to go back and do a little bit more with it, but this actually helps just with the both of the colours being a little bit wet. It actually helps, they bleed into each other, which actually creates a great effect. So moving on, this is some wood dowel that I've used in creating the walls of the project. So it's the same material, same thickness as well. So I'm using these to actually put next to the countertop, and this is actually going to create a little bit more stability as well. And then also creating the skirting boards in the same way as I've done around the rest of the project, along with the wood paneling gold detail as well. So if you want to have a look at how I've created that, check out the first video. I go into a little bit more detail around that. And then just fitting the countertop into place. It's a little bit tight, but actually that works out in my favor anyway. So this is starting to look really good. I'm really pleased with how it's coming together. So now I just need to add in some of the additional details with the capping around the skirting board, and then also the picture rail around the top of each one of those columns. So this was a Etsy printable that I got a while ago, and I've actually just had a look to see if I could find the link again to share it with you, but it's unfortunately unavailable. But it was a physician's office accessories pack that I got, and actually this is going to fit really well for the theme of this project. So I'm just going to cut a couple of these out, which I'm going to use within the project. Okay, so let's start pulling this all together, and we're just going to start adding in a few more details. These were some Halloween skeletons that I don't know where I got them from, but he fits really nicely just in the back there. And here's our cabinet. I've actually created some of these glass bottles with all sorts of bits and pieces in them, like herbs and spices and tea leaves and all sorts of things, and I just printed out some labels and glued those on. And then just out of those drawers that are slightly open, I've just put all sorts of different things sort of coming out of them, creeping out of them, you know, maybe some vapor coming out of one, all sorts of different things. So it was quite fun trying to think of ideas and pulling that together. And then just in the back of the cabinet there, you can sort of see the one of the printables that I got. So now I'm just going to slowly start just adding in some extra little bits and pieces that I've been collecting up over a period of time. Okay, so now it's time to add in the counter, but I do have a little bit of a confession to make. So one of the things when I did when I put the mezzanine in is I didn't check the height that I was placing it in. And when I went to fit this cabinet in, because I was sort of making them all at the same time, it didn't fit. It was it was probably about 5 millimeters too tall. So I literally had to decide on whether I cut the bottom of the cabinet off, whether I pulled out the mezzanine and re-glued it and then tried to finish it in. I couldn't get the mezzanine out. It was glued in so well, and I think that was not only because of the glue but also because of the crown moulding as well. So I actually ended up by cutting the bottom of this cabinet off as well as the back one, and I really wish I had have got it on video because it was so frustrating and so annoying, considering, I mean, cutting through cardboard's fine and cutting through mat board's fine, but each one of those pillars is solid wood. So that was a little bit of a challenge. And here's the little cabinet that I made in the miniature class, and this is the top part of the cabinet. So I have actually put a little emblem on the end there, which is a piece out of the fan, and then just in the middle of the project, I've also middle of the doors, I've actually put some fans in there as well. So you will notice that I haven't put in any of the doors yet. Both this one here, which is an external door, and the one upstairs, which is the one that goes through to the library. And the reason for that is I want to wait until I'm actually doing the exterior, because I'm not really too sure what I want the design of the doors to be as yet. So once I've kind of made that decision, then creating the doors will be reasonably quick and easily. And so therefore I also haven't put on the architraves, because I'm probably going to use that to hide some of the hinge detail as well. So yeah, I'm just adding in some extra details and bits and pieces that I've put together. So these are some more of the little jars that I've created, as well as some books and papers that I'm going to add into it as well. And then this is the bottom part of the hutch dresser that I started making in the miniature club. I've painted this one up slightly different so that it doesn't look too matchy, but it actually fits perfectly up on the top here to create another space to add in some more details. So I've got a couple of pieces that are going to be hanging from the wall, and I've just cut the ends off some toothpicks. So these are some cocktail sticks, and they've got some grooves just in the end of the toothpick. So it just means I can actually have something to hang these pieces off, which is great. And then I'm just adding a few more details in, and then once we're done with that, then I can, and the glue has dried on those toothpicks. I had actually dipped them into some brown wash before I actually glued them into place, so that I knew that I didn't need to go back and glue them. So I've just put some little bits of string onto these two posters and just hanging those in place. So that's it, it's all finished, well, at least the interior anyway. I've still got the ceiling to do as well as the exterior, so that'll be in a up and coming video, but I'm just going to take a break from this project for a little bit and move on to something else, just to kind of refresh the mind. And really hope that you have enjoyed this two-part video. Please let me know in the comments below whether you like the two parts or you'd prefer it all in one video. And again, thank you very much for all of the subscribers. I can't believe how much the channel has grown over a very short period of time, so really appreciate all of your support. It's fantastic. It's really giving me the opportunity to get into something that I really love doing and being able to share this with you. So thank you very much. Just before I reveal the final project, I've actually included a couple of videos in here that I think that you might like as well. And if you like this video, please consider hitting that like button. And if you haven't done so already, I'd love to have you on this journey with me. So hit that subscribe button, turn the bell notification on, and you'll get notified whenever I upload a video. So without further ado, let's have a look at the final reveal.